Good evening, Kathy Beard and Norman Williams Public Library. Thank you for inviting us to do another cooking show from our home. I'm Jim Reiman. My wife, Linda Grant, is doing the producing and the photography, and we've invited a couple of friends to help us enjoy some of the food that we're going to cook tonight. We have our dog Buddy here to help out for anything that falls on the floor. So tonight we're going to do three things, maybe four, but three things. One of them is sort of a quick snack made with white flour tortillas and cheese and some whatever you happen to have that you might want to use from your refrigerator. But and maybe you've done these kind of things before, but I'll just give you my take on it. And the other is a pan-seared fillet of cod that is just lightly seasoned with salt and some panko breadcrumbs. And then we're going to do some steamed mussels. Pretty simple, with shallots and capers, a little butter, white wine. And that's a dish that could stand on its own, or you could serve a salad with it. And then we're going to do a chicken breast that is, it's a bone-on chicken breast. And I'd like to do that because Misty Knoll makes a really good chicken breast, a bone-on chicken breast. And it sort of gives you the opportunity of making some chicken stock to go with the chicken breast, and it's just a matter of deboning the breast, which is quite easy. I'll show you how to do that. And then if we have time, I might do some homemade French fries, which are really, really good with mussels. But anyways, let's get started. So, Maria and Ricardo's a really good white flour tortilla. And this is so simple and so good that I want to share it with you. So we just take a non-stick frying pan. It doesn't have to be this big. It just has to be big enough for a tortilla. This is a little misshapen one. We'll use a nice round one. And I just put a tiny bit of olive oil in a non-stick pan. And again, it doesn't have to be this large a pan. A pan this size would be perfectly fine. And once the oil starts to get heated, just take the tortilla and do this on one side. Let it, that's high heat. Maybe turn it down a little bit. Once it's there for a minute, supermarket Cabot cheddar cheese, which is quite good. And I just sprinkle a little of that on the tortilla. And here's the deal with this, is if you put too much, it's a mess. So less is more. And then when I say that you could use anything from your refrigerator, obviously that really is depending on what your tastes are. But for example, this is something that we got for Christmas. The due date on it is fine. It's campanata. I guess it's time maybe we used it up. So I'm going to just take a little of this campanata. But again, you don't want to put too much. Just enough, and sort of towards the center. And because I know Wendy and Kathy like a little spicy, I have some salsa here that was made by my friend Robert Myers and probably Phyllis Myers. You probably know them. And we're going to use a little of that. You keep it in the center of the tortilla. And as I'm talking, you can see what's happening with the tortilla. It's starting to blister a little bit. You could use a spatula like this. I like to use tongs. and just grab an edge and fold it over. And there's kind of the trick right there, is you want to get that edge as close to the opposing edge as possible. So now you have a mezzaluna, a half a moon, and it's cooking away. The cheese is melting, but I can tell just by peeking under here, it's not quite ready to turn. And you can look and see, you know, when it starts to turn brown, which we'll do very quickly, at which point you just want to flip it over. And that's what it should look like, that when you turn it. I did it quickly because I've done it a lot, but anyway, you want to just let that continue to cook. Not on super high heat. Maybe that's a little too high. But again, you know, you're looking underneath it. I can see, and you can do this. You know, they're pretty durable at this point. You can flop them over. I'd like to cook that a little bit more. So, you know, what we're probably less than 5 minutes into this thing, and it's done basically. So I'll turn the pan off, keep this like so, and then I will ask for the serving platter with me. And then, if you could take a close-up of this, Lenny. So there's a cheesy, tomato, slightly spicy little snack. Okay? And you can try those. And I'm going to do another one, just so you can, you know, see again how really easy this is. So again, you don't have to turn it until that side is down. And I notice that the cheese is kind of oozing out, so I don't think I'll put in quite as much cheese. And this, I mean, maybe you want to get rid of a little bacon. And I sauteed up earlier some shiitake mushrooms. Shiitake mushrooms are really wonderful and easy to use, and much more available than they used to be. But this is, so bacon, mushroom, and cheese. You could put some tomato in there and it'd be just like a tortilla BLT. So I had turned the heat off, but again, just flop it over. This is not a science. It's sort of, you know, just intuitive cooking. Now, while that's doing that, I am going to get out the next thing, which is, I'm going to just refer to my notes here for, this is, these are two approximately 6-inch cod fillets that I cut from a loin of cod the other day into 2 pieces. And if you look at them, the whitest part of the cod is the upside. The skin side is the one that's slightly pink, and we want to cook it with the skin side down. So that's going to be our next thing. And we're going to do that in a smaller pan. And while we're doing that, we're going to also cook some mussels. So while we're doing this, I'm going to start the mussels. So, excuse me one moment.
Momento. So what are we going to use in our refrigerator, because we don't have any of those delicious compotes?
Yeah.
I'm going to use...
Yes, this carbonara di carciofi.
So here we have some nice fresh mussels that I just recently got. And to start those in a hot pan, I put in just a tiny bit of oil. And the mussels. Let's see how our tortilla is coming.
The fire is off.
So you start the mussels, and the mussels I'm going to do, you can do them with garlic. Tonight I'm going to do them with shallots. And some capers. So these are just regular store-bought capers. And a little butter. And those in the stir. And what I do when I start the mussels, I put them so they can steam properly. So here's another little tortilla snack. And in the meantime, I'm going to take these pieces of cod, and what I want to do with these is season them. So a little bit about seasoning. This is a salt that is that's made as a seasoned salt, as sort of a seasoning for a lot of different purposes. It happens to be made by Christina at Fossil Glass in Woodstock, and it's really quite extraordinary what a flavor booster this salt is. I don't know if you've heard the term umami, but umami is like the fifth taste. There's bitter, sour, sweet, and salt. And umami is sort of a fifth tasting sense that came about. There was a Japanese scientist in 1908 started looking at the flavor components in a bowl of soup that he was having that was made with a product that the Japanese call dashi. Dashi is made with kelp, dried kelp, and bonita flakes. And he sort of looked at it from a very scientific point of view and said that this was a taste that was unlike any of the other four tastes. So he started composing all of those tastes that you get in dashi into a flavor that he described as umami, which he called the essence of deliciousness, which I think is a wonderful term. Anyway, I use this, can I give you another little, so this is the mushroom bacon tortilla that we're doing. And anyway, so what I do, instead of salting the breadcrumbs for the cod, what I like to do is put this flavored salt right on the cod, like so. I don't know if you can see that, both sides. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the cod that I did with the tortilla. Put a little oil in the pan. One step I forgot. I want to butter the top of the cod. And this is important. I want to make sure you get this part of it. So there's a little butter on top of the cod. And now I'm going to put it in the hot oil. Let's see how our mussels are doing. Our mussels are all opened. And I'm going to turn it off right now. And then at the end, I finish it with a little white wine and olive oil. So the cod is started with just a little bit of oil, and you want to make sure right from the get-go that it doesn't stick. Very important. And then you want to go to your broiler and put the broiler on high. And set your the broiler level at, I would say this is probably about 10 inches from the top of the broiler. I'll explain the French fries later. So we have the cod, and it's cooking very nicely. And this is what we want to do. So now we take the unseasoned panko breadcrumbs, put it on top of the cod, like so. And then maybe just move it around to the edges. And at this point, you don't want to be cooking this too hot. Okay? I would say about like that. And I don't know if the camera can see it, but what we're looking for is for it to cook from the bottom to the top, and the flesh of the cod will start separating a little bit. And that's sort of the note that you need to look at when, or the thing that you need to recognize about when it goes into the broiler. Let me just clean up my space here a little bit. Put that back. Okay, so now, because these mussels are accompanying the cod, those are just about perfect. You can see that they're all opened. And what they really need now is juice. And the way we get the juice is to put in a good hefty amount of butter. Turn the heat back on and let that work its way down. I forgot a little umami on the mussels. So these two dishes are going together. You got to time these about right. So my sense tells me that the mussels are opened, the butter is melting, and it's time for a little white wine. And when all of this comes together, that's going to be the sauce that's going to go on the bottom of the cod. So I don't need to put the top on this anymore. what I'm looking for is this, to start doing this. So it's bubbling butter, wine, capers, shallots, and mussel juice, which is very, very tasty, I'm sure. So I want to make sure that I can take this off when the time comes. So it's important that even in a non-stick pan, you want to make sure that that's free. And if it's not, a little more oil. So if you were to do this for a number of people, if you wanted to do this as a dinner for, 4 or 6 people, what you could do is pan sear the cod, put it on a sheet pan, a small sheet pan like this, in individual pieces. Put it under the broiler, cook your sauce, take this off, take the cod off, put it in the dish, and then put the mussels and the sauce on top of it. I'm not going to do that because I'm going to just put this whole pan right under the broiler, but if you were doing it for more people, you might want to think about putting it on a sheet pan. And so again, what you're looking at is the cod is cooking from the bottom up. And it's a little bit tricky. Maybe there's a little bit of trial and error involved, but the thing that you want in the end is for the cod to just flake off. If you overcook it and it's dry, that's not what you want. So when it goes under the broiler, it is getting another real blast of high heat. So you have to sort of take that into account. But I would say that is coming along nicely. And then, so our bowls for the cod and our hungry visitors. So I didn't do any vegetables tonight. Vegetables would be your option, but something like cod, I think would be really, really good with some broccoli, or this time of the year maybe some sugar snap peas. I am going to, if we can, I'm going to show you how to make some French fried potatoes, which I love with fish and chips. So again, I don't know if it's possible for you to see this with the camera, but you can see how this is sort of turning a different color underneath, which means the cod is cooking nicely from the bottom. I'm going to give it another minute, and then I think it's ready to go under the broiler. This. Okay. So now, broiler set at about that level. And I'm going to put the pan under here. Obviously, you have to have a pan that has an oven-proof handle. I leave the door open. Give the mussels another little stir. And while we're doing that, I am going to set up the chicken, which is our next course. And about the chicken, again, if you go to a supermarket these days, you're going to find mostly skinless, boneless chicken. And there's nothing wrong with skinless, boneless chicken, except that I personally don't think it's the most flavorful. I think there's something about chicken that's on the bone being better than chicken that is taken off the bone with the skin off it. And, you know, people, I guess, really don't like skin and bones. It sort of reminds me of the story of a guy at our restaurant had a customer call him over and hold up a salmon bone from her plate. And she said, "Excuse me, what is this?" And he said, "That's a bone, ma'am." And she said, "Well, what's it doing in my dish?" And he said, "Well, it helps the fish swim." And she wrote us a letter. She wanted us to fire him, but we didn't because we thought that that was a very good answer, actually. I mean, the customer is always right, we know that. But bones in fish and bones in chicken are not a bad thing. I guess that's my point. So, to that end, here we have Misty Knowles bone-on chicken. Now these chicken breasts, I suspect were a deal because they sort of mutilated the skin when they were butchering them. I put this, I dry them off with paper towel because I think that chickens are much more, they crisp up much nicer when they're not wet. Okay, keep my eye on this. So this is the cod. It's not quite there, and because of the peculiarity of our broiler, I'm going to move this one slightly over here, and this one over here. They're almost done. Okay, back to the chicken. So chicken, being better on the bone, serves two purposes. You get the bone, and out of the bone, you can actually make a stock while you're cooking your while you're getting your chicken breast ready. You can actually make a nice little stock. So here is the bone. This thing right here, a sharp knife like a fillet knife, and you just start running it along the bone. And I certainly can understand that people might not want to go through this effort, but after you do it a few times, there's the bone right there. Turn the knife around, do that. After you do it, I don't know, I'd say a half a dozen times, there's the bone, there's the chicken breast. And then what we're going to do for tonight is we're going to, because this is sort of like more like a piccata, I cut the breast in half. So 1, 2, and then I take, excuse me, I don't want to lose track of this. Voila. Okay, those are done. So I'm going to just stop for a second on the chicken breast and talk about the cod again. So I want to make sure that they're done. Again, this is the key. When you see it sort of flaking like that, when it's the pieces are sort of coming apart or separating, that's a pretty good indication that they're done, and it's firm. So I'm going to add a little bit more white wine to my mussels. Just juice them up a little bit. Take the pan, a little shake. I'll tell you, that sauce right there is going to be very, very good. Never going to have too much white wine. Okay, that's off. All right, so here's the dish. And this is really a nice presentation, just to do exactly like this. If you wanted to put it on a flat plate, that's fine. The problem is that the mussel juice is going to sort of run to the end, and that's not exactly what you want. So this is a way of containing the juice of the mussels, and if you have some bread to go with them, you sop up the mussel juice with the bread. So, now, if you wanted to make this more of an extravaganza, you could always put some little shrimp in here, saute some shrimp alongside it. But there you go. We're going to have to come over on the other side to help you eat this.
Please.
And then the sauce over the top of the cod. There you go. Oh, beautiful. And we could hear your oohs and ahs from here.
Yeah,
Oh.
you are gonna be.
So just try those and see what you think. And I'll continue on with the chicken.
I don't think I should try it without the chef first trying it.
Okay, so we are going to continue on with this. Another little peek into how to do this. Again, practice makes perfect, and it's very simple. It's just finding where the bone meets the breast and separating the two, and it's as easy as that. And then you wind up with the 2 chicken breasts, which I put a little bit of olive oil. I don't think I'd even put any salt in it at this point, and just start braising these. And you could throw in an onion or carrot, but this is a little quick stock. And this is what you wind up with if you make enough of it, which is wonderful chicken stock, which is absolutely essential to cook with. So I think early on when I said that we had guests tonight, I forgot to introduce Kathy Bailey.
Hi.
And Wimby Hoyt, and I'm sure lots of you folks out there know Kathy and Wimby. And they have just told me so far so good. They're happy, so we must be doing okay. Again, so here we are with our 4 pieces of chicken out of 2 chicken breasts, and don't mind the fact that they're a little mutilated, because that doesn't matter. You could take these right now, throw them in a pan with some of your favorite things, and favorite things being vegetables or whatever, like a stir fry, and they would be really good. But what we're going to do is we're going to do something a little bit different, because I get inspired by Chinese cooking, and I like chicken to be crisp. And if the skin is on it and you cook it, that's one way of getting it crisp. If there's no skin on it, you can sort of make your own skin. And this is simply equal amounts of flour and cornstarch. So for this has about two tablespoons of flour, 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, and about a teaspoon of baking powder. Not baking soda, baking powder. And you put them in a plastic bag or whatever. You could do it in a bowl. I like to do it in a bag because when I open the bag like this, I can take them and I can shake them off. So I got a too hot pan. You don't want a too hot pan. And these things I grabbed, this is cooking oil. This is a mixture of olive oil and canola oil. There's no point in using expensive olive oil to saute. It's not necessary because you're never going to get the taste of it. It all cooks off. The primary thing that these oils do at this point is they sear in the flavor and they keep the chicken from sticking. Well, this piece came apart, so I'm going to go with the flow and just put that in there. And you can see that that's about the right temperature because it's just sizzling a little bit. I think I'll do the same with this one. So we're going to wind up with some pieces of chicken, which is, pieces of chicken is chicken piccata, little bits of chicken. I think I'll do the same with this piece too. Just cut it in half. Make sure that you got some of the flour and cornstarch on it. So this is something where you definitely would not want to walk away from this. This is something where you got to keep an eye on it because if you don't, it's going to burn in a hurry, and you don't want that to happen. But once it starts cooking, you can start adding other things to it. And tonight, I've decided to do a little garlic and a little mushrooms, and again, white wine. But you know what? If you don't drink, not that it really matters because wine, the alcohol in wine goes off into the air when you're cooking. So even if you don't drink, there's no alcohol in the wine that you use. But I always use wine as to deglaze my pan. So again, with a gas stove, I'm going to go probably, I would say moderate heat. And then, while I'm doing that, I'll clean my cutting board. And I'm going to cut up some shiitake mushrooms. I left a few uncut just to show you in case you don't use shiitakes. These are my favorite mushrooms for this kind of a dish. I think shiitake mushrooms have a little bit more flavor than creminis or institutional white mushrooms. Shiitake mushrooms used to be wild, now they're cultivated. And for, I might as well use this. So here are my mushrooms. And this is cooking okay. Sorry, this is an old restaurant thing. Keep my hands clean. So, chicken looks like it's doing pretty good. Maybe a little bit. I got to add a little more heat to it. And again, I always do this. When you're cooking, it's there's a lot of ad-libbing. So if somebody says, you put a teaspoon of this or a tablespoon of that, well, yeah, but what happens if that's not enough? You got to know if it's not cooking right, to add more. And unfortunately, it can't subtract anything. So you can see that that's making a little coating, as in fried chicken. Our stovetop is a little uneven, so sometimes I have to do that. But just take a look at the amount of flour and cornstarch. It's very scant, you know, it's just a little bit. So you don't want to overdo it, because then it gets too sticky. So look in here, here's the chicken, and it's cooking. Isn't that a beautiful thing? And we put it in here, and it's just bones cooking. How nice.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, what could be better? So we're again, I think if you know, everybody's gone out to dinner plenty of times and they look at dishes and they see what looks right on the plate. Well, what looks unattractive to me is a piece of chicken that's pure white. I like chicken that has a little crispiness and crust to it. And that's what we're going for here. See? You can see that that is crispy and crusty. But this is pink. So it's not overcooked. That's why pan searing is such a great thing. I'm going to flip these. See, golden brown. They look like a pancake. That might be a good, almost a good guideline. Okay, so now, what you don't want is to burn garlic, because garlic is bitter. So I always wait until this point, and I sprinkle a little garlic in there. I add my mushrooms in there. And now I'm going to do what Julia Child recommended, is to put butter. You gotta have, you know. So this has got, now we're getting something in there that's really, it's not about keeping the chicken from sticking, it's about making it really tasty. And that's what butter does. So you gotta move the chicken around a little bit, get the mushrooms and the garlic at the bottom of the pan, like so. And you can see that the mushrooms don't have to be, they need to be cooked, but they don't have to be really, I like them when they're plump and juicy, and this works just fine. All together in the same pan, makes it easy. If you wanted to, you could cook the mushrooms and the garlic in a separate pan and make the sauce in a separate pan, but that's not what we're going to do. So, back to the chicken stock. If you do this, you wind up with this. And this is really good chicken stock that I made a week or so ago, and I freeze it. This is the whole secret of really great food. If you're going to do chicken, you need chicken stock. If you're going to do seafood, you need to make some stock with some fish. And if you absolutely must, you can go to this, which is a really good, quick bouillon. It's called Better Than Bouillon, and it's the best thing going for making the quick pan stock if you don't have chicken stock. But we have chicken stock. So now the chicken stock goes in. And a goodly amount of it, because the cornstarch and the flour are going to thicken this and make it into a sauce.
Jim, when I've seared meat, I've always been in the understanding that you need more space around the meat.
Yeah.
So
This is a little tight because my big pan is all,
but
I could have used a larger
but
pan.
it doesn't matter.
No.
The way, yeah.
No, this chicken is done right now. And so I was going to make plates of that. What are we doing for plates for the chicken here? Yeah. I mean, we're gonna have some leftover chicken, but let's just do it as a restaurant would do it. And for example, I mean, this is a nice piece. And turn this down a little bit. That's a nice piece. And Wendy loves to eat. This. And then, so you can see that, I mean, the mushrooms are more than done. They're plump and juicy and not overcooked. And you have this beautiful sauce. And it's really, really just that simple. Chicken with mushrooms. About halfway through this whole thing, I realized that I was going to put in some tarragon. I never did. So I'm going to put a little sprig of tarragon just for hopefully no taste of it. But tarragon, mushrooms, and chicken is a great dish. So if I had done as I had intended, I would have chopped up the tarragon and put it in with the sauce. But I didn't.
Yeah.
Here we go.
I don't think I'll do so.
How are we doing so far?
I think you're rocking it, Jim.
Okay. Wow. All right. Let's just go back to this. Now, these breasts have been simmering a bit, and they're brown. So for those two breasts, cover them in water and cook them for a half an hour. Strain it off and save the broth, and you have a pretty nice chicken stock. Okay? All right, we're going for broke. I don't know how much time we have, but if you folks out there in Norman Williams Library Land are still with us, we're gonna do one other thing. Because I think that this is something that's so easy and so much fun that everybody should know about it. I bought some russet potatoes yesterday, and I'm going to put in enough oil, which is probably 2 cups of oil, and get it hot. And what I did with the French fries is different, but this is how you can make your own really, really great French fries. I cut them last night. These are russet potatoes. Skin them, cut them as close to whatever kind of size you would like for a French fry. And then I left them overnight soaking in water, just soaking in water. The water takes the starch and the sugar out of potatoes, and it is the starch and the sugar that keeps French fries from becoming crispy. And what's a French fry if it's not crispy? So I'm just going to say russet potatoes, peeled, cut into these pieces, soaked overnight, or even 6 hours in water. Strain them, put them on a rack, put them in the oven at 200 degrees, and dry them out. And it's still a raw potato, but this is the real deal when it comes to making French fries. So how's the chicken?
Oh my God.
Good? Yeah. And it's properly cooked all the way through. It's not too, it's moist in the center.
Pork tenders.
Okay.
Best.
All right.
Yeah.
So you can hear this pop in here, and I'm going to throw a French fry in there. Linda, if you could just take a look at that. That will all of a sudden start to agitate when it's hot enough, which is around 400 degrees. But I think we're sort of coming to the end of our show, and because you're not going to be able to taste the French fries, we're going to be here to have those. But I hope that it's been instructional and fun, and keep supporting Norman Williams Public Library because it's the greatest thing in town. And I hope you enjoyed the show. If you have any questions, you can get a hold of Kathy Beard, and I will try to elaborate on any questions that you might have. Let's just have, before you go, let's just have one look at this, because I think, you know, it'll look just like McDonald's. There are your French fries frying, and I wish you could be here to enjoy some, but another time. Thank you. Good night.